Hi, folks. This is Brother Nero, and I'm here to do this podcast recording for you. We were supposed to do a live outreach today, but we forgot that we have some rituals that we had already pre planned. We're doing it on a Saturday because Father's Day is on Sunday. So we figured all of you guys would probably be spending time with your dad or your significant other, and that is your equivalent of your birth dad. So we decided to do our podcast a bit early. Today, I'm not going to do the virtual outreach where I answer questions. If you want to go back and listen to some of our basic answers to some of our basic questions, go look under our live tab and you'll see extensive virtual FAQs where we answer the questions. But I did want to have a few announcements for you. First, we're going to do our virtual outreach on once a month basis, starting on the fourth Sunday of the month at 4:30, and we're also going to be doing the Shadow Path Diabolist podcast only once a month on the third Sunday of the month. Um, and that's basically how we're going to change things. And the reason we're doing that is because you know, it doesn't do a lot of good to do a bunch of podcasts and do very little content. It's better to put together a decent podcast and do them less frequently. And to that end, we're also going to change the way we do things with our Shadow Path journal as well. Starting this year, we're only going to put out 2 issues, but we're going to double the size of the issue, and we're also going to make them available not only in Kindle format but in print format. Um, we're going to be doing that print on demand instead of printing them ahead of time, so they're going to be kind of expensive. We can't really help that because we're not the ones that set the prices for the print on demand services. Um, but we're going to try to double the size of it so we make sure it's worth it for you. And we're also going to make sure that we put a lot more research and stuff into the content. And then you'll have a choice of whether to get a basically email version of it or a version of it or a print version of it. You'll have that choice at least. So it'll make it worthwhile, and that'll be available hopefully in the US and UK and wherever else you might be living at where you might want to get a copy of the Shadow Path Journal. But I did want to talk about one thing before I go today. Um, I've noticed this trend in occultism in general, and it's this idea of babying people, mother henning people, Christianizing paganism, or treating people as if they're infants, like where you have to justify everything, where you have to tell people, oh, don't forget if you do blood magic, how dangerous exchanging bodily fluids with another individual is, that kind of stuff. Or saying, oh, nowadays we don't believe in animal sacrifice or stuff like that because the gods don't require it, that kind of stuff. Look, each and every person has to make the decisions for themselves about how they're going to practice. But just because you don't agree with something or you don't like something doesn't mean you have the right to speak on behalf of the gods, especially if you're not in direct communication with them. And most people aren't because, as I've said before, very few people actually practice. I would say that 99% of people who claim to practice are nothing more than just armchair occultists. So unless you have direct communication, which you can verify, you have no business speaking for the gods because you have no idea what they want or what they need. And even if you believe they don't want you to do something, doesn't mean you could speak for them with regards to everyone else's path or practice. So stop doing that. So one of the things we're going to change is we're not in the Shadow Path Journal. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to give you moral lessons about how to behave. We figure if you're an adult, if you're adult enough to be a Satanist, you should know enough about the exchange of bodily fluids. You should know enough about the laws to know that if you break them, there are going to be consequences. You're supposed to be responsible for yourself. You're supposed to take responsibility for your own actions. And if you don't know that stuff, you're not mature enough to be practicing black magic in the first place or magic in general. And that's the issue I have. Quit being mother hen to everyone. Let people make their choices and suffer the consequences of those choices. If that's the case, that's what a Satanist is all about, taking responsibility for yourself. and the consequences of your actions, and be mature enough to know what to do and what not to do. And if you do something society doesn't like, it's your responsibility. It's your problem, not everyone else's. No one needs to sit around and mother you and tell you what to do and who to be. And if they do, you're not mature enough to be a Satanist. That's it. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. I hope that little bit of advice, or that little bit of I guess, a lecture of sorts, is helpful to you. And I'll be having a new Shadow Path Diabolism podcast up in a day or two. I've already recorded it, so it will be coming out in the next day or two on the YouTube channels. Thanks again. See you next time. May Satan be with you. Take care.